Yo, yo, yo! Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's up? Welcome back. Happy Hump Day! My favorite day of the week, baby. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Wednesday. And happy to have you back. Hit me with a big old good morning. I want to see who is up inside the chat, ready to rock and roll for a big day today. We got the Fed decision day, baby. I'm excited. Maybe we got some good opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. So hit me with a big old good morning. We'll officially dive into it. We'll spend about 20, 25 minutes breaking apart the spine to cues, getting you guys dialed in. Then we'll take the last 30 minutes of the session, review some of your stocks as well, do some Q&A, have some fun with it, get you guys dialed. So, you guys know the deal. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Josh. Hit me with the good morning, Josh. Then we'll dive into it. I still haven't gotten a good morning from anybody. What the fuck's going on? What about you, TikTokers? What's up? Good morning, everybody. Well, I don't have that much time to waste, so we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's fix this format here, though. Let's switch it around. Yeah, so you guys can see the charts better. That'd be good, right? Look at that. People on TikTok hit me with a good morning before my own team hit me with a good morning, man. That's just a sad thing. Guys, hurting my feelings today. Technology for everyone. What's up? John Badger. Good morning. Good morning. Mike, what's up? Jake, Tom's in the house. The Sizzler is always up in here, ready to rock and roll. What's up, guys? Let's dive into it. Let's talk about what we got for today, guys. All right, so economic calendar. Take a look at that. Today is Wednesday, June 18th. What do we have coming on up? Well, coming on up this morning, you had housing starts. You had jobless claims data this morning. What was our jobless claims? 245 forecast was 245. Cool. So came in line with the forecast. We had building permits. Yeah, housing starts. Again, not really the type of data that rocks the market, but coming on up today, 2 p.m. What do we got? Like the Fed rate decision, which we know the Fed's not going to cut rates. They're going to hold rates steady. It's like a 99% probability priced in. The Fed does nothing with interest rates. Then we have FOMC economic projection data at 2 o'clock. But the big thing is going to be the press conference with Uncle Pal today at 2:30. So we get to watch good old Uncle Pal get up on stage, get drilled with questions, and see the market move. So 2:30 should be a pretty good time in the market, guys. Pretty good time in the market. So that's what we got coming on up for today. But let's go right to the SPY Daily. Let's start picking this apart. And let's see what we have coming on up for today's session, guys. All right, so let's do some support resistance analysis. And then we'll go look at, some lower time frame areas of like supply and demand. And we'll go from there and really get all this dialed in, guys. So first daily area that we're going to have here to the downside. We get this nice little daily zone that's sitting down here between 594.97 to 595.52. That is a nearby daily zone of support that if we come down into it and we hold it, we can see a nice little pop and a nice little bounce off that daily zone. What else do we have to the downside? Because if we fall below that zone, we could absolutely see the market move much, much lower. But where to? That's the $1 million question, right? Is where's the market going today, Josh? Because I want to make the money. Well, let's get an idea of where we are going. All right. Where is going to be your next daily zone to the downside? I mean, there's just a lot of chop back here in the day. So it's really hard to just dial this down and find those key daily areas. But we're looking a little bit down here. Yeah, down around 590.62 to like 591.40. That's going to be the next best daily zone. We gap down below it, hold below it 4 days as resistance. We get below it here. We're below it 3 days as resistance as well. That was a really nice hit here on February 3rd of this year. We gapped down, hit a low a day at that zone, and had a big pop to the upside. We see that it was hit several times here just last month, and then again came down here June 5th, low a day, big bounce off that zone. So that's going to be a nice daily zone to the downside. Again, that is 590.62 to 591.40 here on the SPY. So we got our two lower zones of daily support for today, but what do we have to the upside if we see the market move on up? You're going to have a zone right up against those prior highs. All that resistance that formed back in like late February, early March. We hit it 1, 2, 3, 4 days back to back and saw a big old dump to the downside off that zone. So that's going to give you a zone up around 597.33 to 597.87. And so that zone is the zone. Would you look at that? Surprise. Came down, hit it as pre-market low, bounced. So we even see that area being respected already here in pre-market session, and that was just a daily zone. Had nothing to do with pre-market, but whoa, would you look at that? Price comes down, hits it, bounces off of it. It's being respected. So that's a high probability make or break zone for today. I already see that being our lits for today. So let's mark that up as our lits. That stands for line in the sand. That's our make or break level. That is 597.33 to 597.87 on the SPY. It's also right up against yesterday's close as well. So if you just want to mark up yesterday's close and have that as a reference, go ahead and mark that up as well. So you can see that not only do we have a daily zone of support there, it's up against yesterday's close, which is a natural area of support as well. All right, so we're good on that level. Let's go find one or two more dialed in zones to the upside here on the SPY. And then we should be pretty much wrapping up our daily analysis here on the SPY. So where is going to be the next daily zone at? That's the $1 million question, Josh. Why is it the $1 million question? Because if you just took like 10,000 contracts off one of these zones, you'll probably make $1 million. So that's why it's a $1 million question, because you could make $1 million. No, I'm kidding. You're not going to make $1 million. All right, cool. So we got $600.86 to 601.33. We can see we topped out at that zone here back in like November. Hit it again, topped out right there back in mid-December. And then you got a lot of hits here over the past couple of weeks. High day rejection, little tap, 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 tap. We can see that it's been some pretty clear, obvious resistance, even here just the last couple of weeks. But this resistance level formed way back in like November, December of last year. So that's going to be a pretty key area to the upside. And that was pretty much right up against yesterday's highs as well. All right. Do we need one more zone? I mean, yeah, you could probably go grab one more dialed in zone to the upside if we see the SPY break above that 601 zone. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to go find one more dialed in zone to the upside if we do see the market push on up today. So, next area to the upside will be up around 602.75 to 603.06. So, what does that do for us? That gives us what? 5 high probability dialed in zones of support resistance. Why are these zones so significant? Right? Because 70% of the time when you get into one of these zones, something happens. That's the cool thing, is these zones are so dialed that when the stock's price gets to one of these zones, 70% of the time a move takes place. You come down to that daily zone of support, it likes to bounce. Something happens. And that something that happens is what you make money on. It's that simple. Right, so we come up into this zone of resistance at 601 and we can't break it. We simply take puts. If we come down to this 597.50 zone, the lips, and we continue to hold above it, we simply play calls. Where? Into our next daily zone. And we just go zone to zone, guys. So we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 high probability dialed in significant zones. Is there anything else we can do on the daily, right? Any other daily analysis we can do? You could probably start to put a little multi-day uptrend here on the SPY, right? Nice little 1, 2, 3 hit of this multi-day uptrend. So go ahead and throw an uptrend here on the SPY over those 3 daily higher lows. Do we do anything else here? We got supply up here, right? So there's going to be some of that daily supply up around like 610 to 611, but we're still pretty far away from getting up into that daily supply zone. But there is some daily supply and daily demand. Demand's not going to be until we get way back down to like the 580s. So again, we got a lot of work to do before we even get down into the 580s to hit any of that demand that's sitting down there. So we got supply up around the 610s, not getting there today. So we're really just going to be working these daily zones of support resistance. But let's go into a 4-hour time frame and let's finish this up, guys. We're just going top down from the daily to the 4-hour to the 1-hour. And we're just continuing to do all of our analysis to get dialed in. So I'm looking for like 4-hour supply and demand. Do I have any 4-hour supply demand that's untouched, unhit? Nothing that's like super awesome. I mean, you could see that you got this little rally-based drop up here, but it was a previous hit off this supply zone. So that's a hit, not fresh. Then we see we got this little rally-based drop formation here. And we had a nice little impulse yesterday. So there's going to be some 4-hour supply just sitting right here. We can clearly see that rally-based drop formation. And there was a nice little impulse to the downside out of some of that 4-hour supply. So we know we're going to have some 4-hour supply up around, $600. But that's not going to be fresh supply. That was created back here. So that was just a couple hits off that previous supply zone. So we'll go ahead and mark up the supply zone here on the SPY. What about demand? Well, we had some demand here, already hit it. Price is below it. You had some demand here. Price has already hit that zone. It's out. You're going to have some more 4-hour demand sitting down here at that 590 zone. So we'll drill that down and get that plotted, get that marked up. So let's go ahead and flip it down to a 1-hour. We know we're going to see some, again, 4-hour supply and demand zones. But these 1-hour zones will be just a lot tighter. So What do we see here on the SPY? We were looking up around that 601 area being some supply, right? We have this nice little rally, base drop formation. So let's go ahead and mark up some of that 4-hour supply that we have here. 4-hour and 1-hour supply on the SPY, right? We got this nice little rally base drop formation. So there's your 4-hour supply zone right there. Then we just simply flip it down into what? A 1-hour time frame, and we see where our zone on top of zone is. And so the 1-hour zone is pretty much the same zone as the 4-hour. So why would I have two zones that are exactly the same? I know I have 4-hour supply, 1-hour supply. Let's go finish this up on a 30-minute and see if I have any good 30-minute structure here. Rally base drop. Beautiful. There's my 30-minute supply zone. And so what do we start to notice here? Right? Not only do we have a daily zone of resistance up around $600.86 to 601.33, but we have multiple time frame zones of supply overhead. We got that 4-hour supply zone, check. We can see we have that 1-hour structure of 1-hour supply, check. We drill it down to a 30-minute. We got some good 30-minute structure for that 30-minute supply, check. So we're noticing that we got 3 zones of supply and a daily zone of resistance that all line up at like 601. So is this going to be an A+ area to short the SPY today? Abso-freaking-lutely. Right, I have 3 zones of supply and a dialed-in daily zone of resistance. There's an 80% chance that if price gets to 601, there's an 80% chance that we fall to the downside. Resistance, 3 zones of supply. I'm taking those odds 100% of the time. So that's going to be one of the best trades for today, is getting short off that 601 level for the next leg down here on the SPY, guys. All right. So, yeah, we're good. We know where we want to get short. We know where our key line in the sand zone is. That Litz is 597.33 to 598.87. And that's our make or break for today. And we can see that's right around that daily uptrend as well. Remember, we have that daily uptrend here on the SPY. So here's going to be game plan number 2, is if we open on up, come down into that Litz, that key dialed in daily zone of support, and we hold the daily uptrend as well. So we come down, hit that zone of support, hold the daily uptrend with good price action. I will get long up to 601. When we get to 601, I will be closing my long, and I will be looking to play the short out of some of that overlapping supply and that daily zone of resistance as well. So those are going to be 2 of the best game plans for today here on the SPY based on the analysis that we've done. So we are all set, dialed in, ready to get after it here on the SPY. Let's go do the Qs as well. Let's get you guys dialed on the Qs. So did we completely fill the gap yesterday? We did not. So we had this gap on the Qs yesterday. Did we come down and completely fill the gap? In pre-market, we did. Yeah, we came down and filled the gap in pre-market. So we'll go ahead and just remove the gap level and just go basic, support resistance, supply demand, go from there. Why is someone from San Antonio, Texas calling me at like 9 in the morning? Come on. It's like 7 o'clock your time. Go back to bed. All right, so let's rip through the Qs real quick, guys. Daily uptrend on the Qs, just like we had on the SPY. Got a nice little daily uptrend. We already came down and closed the gap here in pre-market, so the gap's already been closed. Let's go ahead and remove that. And let's just go find our closest dialed-in zone of support for today here on the Qs. And so that zone is going to be right down here between... Just give me a second, guys. Be patient. I'm doing this in real time with you. I want to get it dialed in. If I'm going to put my name behind something and give it to you, just give me like 5 extra seconds and let me get it dialed in. It's 525.78 to 526.50. That is going to be a pretty dialed in zone of daily support. Did we hit that zone? We have yet to hit that zone. So that's still going to be a pretty high probability area for today on the Qs. All right, so we got our lowest zone of support. Let's go find one more lower zone for today on the Qs. Man, we're just working through all this daily chop, and it just makes it a little bit of a challenge. to really dial these zones in, but that's a fucking dialed in zone. All right, so your lowest zone of support for today is down between 521.99 to 522.58. All right, 521.99 to 522.58. That is going to be your lowest, most significant zone of daily support for today. Now, let's go find a couple zones to the upside. As far as resistance. So, okay, here's going to be a pretty sweet zone on the Qs. Yeah, that's a key level. That's actually the lits for today. I can see that being the lits. It's nice and tight. Several hits, big moves, big reactions off that zone. Yeah, that's the lits for today. Line in the sand on the Qs is 528.77 to 529.21. All right, that's the lits. We need one more zone to the upside. So where's that next daily zone going to be? If you're like, dude, this is challenging, Josh, I would agree. I've been trading for 10 years. This is a methodology that I created, finding these high probability zones of support resistance. And so even I have to take a little bit longer just to really sit here and work these zones to get them dialed in, because you're working through a lot of this previous daily chop. And so it's just harder to really find those areas. But this is going to be the zone on the SPY. Your final zone to the upside is 531.79 to 532.51. All right, so again, that's 531.79 to 532.51. So that gives us 4 dialed-in zones of daily support resistance. We still got some of that daily supply sitting up here. Right, we had that nice little drop, base drop formation. So there's going to be your daily supply zone way up in the 537s up to like 539. And we got these 4 daily zones to work with. We got this multi-week uptrend up against those daily higher lows. I mean, we're good on the daily. We've done all of the analysis that we can do. So now we just got to drill this down into the lower time frames like we did on the SPY and keep rocking this process until we're 100% dialed in. So do we have any really good looking 4-hour zones of supply and demand? I mean, you had that little demand candle right here. Price already came down and hit it, though. So you could go ahead and mark up that little demand zone. But look at price. Already came down, hit that demand zone, and popped this morning. So that zone's bye-bye. We've already hit that lower time frame zone. We do have some supply sitting right here. We got this nice little rally-based drop formation yesterday. So let's mark up this 4-hour supply zone. Oh, would you look at that? 4-hour supply lines up with that daily zone of resistance up around 532. So that's already starting to look like a pretty good area to be thinking about playing some puts. Let's look at the 1-hour time frame. We do have that 1-hour supply, but it's going to be the same zone as the 4-hour. So I'm not going to mark it up, but I see some good structure on a 1-hour. Let's go finish this up on a 30-minute. There is your 30-minute supply candle right there. There is your rally-based drop. All right, cool. So we got some overlap taking place up here, guys. All right, what do we start to notice? We got some 4-hour, 1-hour, 30-minute supply that lines up with that daily zone of resistance up around 532. That's what we call confluence, right? We have 3 supply zones stacked, and we have a daily zone of resistance that has nothing to do with supply. The way that we found that resistance zone is completely different than how we found supply. They have nothing to do with one another, yet they line up at the same price point. That's a confluence, and that's starting to make this a very high probability area to play puts off of today on the Q. So let's go ahead and build those plans. Game plan 1 is getting short, playing puts off of that lower time frame supply where all overlaps and that daily zone of resistance up around 532.40. So 532.40 is like the best of the best area to be getting into puts today and playing those puts back down to 529 on the Qs off of this very high probability region to get short. So that's going to be the first game plan here on the Qs. We know why we want to get short here. We know where inside of those zones we want to get short. And the biggest thing is the reasoning we want to get short here. We know there's an 80% chance if price gets to 532.40. There's an 80% chance it falls. So I'm taking those odds 100% of the time. If I have 100 trades that set up just like this, I know 80% will be winners. 20% will be losers. All I have to do is manage my risk very, very well on the 20% of losers, and I have to capitalize on my winners for the 80% that work. If I just do that 100 times on this exact type of trade, 100 times with those odds and good risk management skills, I'm making money. So I'm going to take the trade 100 fucking times, 100% of the time. I'm going to take it regardless of what happens. I'm just going to take it because I know over 100 trades, boom, I'm making money. And it's an easy trade to identify. It's not hard to come through, find these daily zones of support resistance, go through, do supply-demand analysis, and find these great-looking trades. And it only take a couple minutes to do so. So that's going to be the first game plan for today. Second game plan is based on what takes place off the lits. That line in the sand zone down around 529. What takes place? We don't fucking know what's going to happen. We just sit back and wait. So if we come down to that 529 zone and we hold it with good price action, we just play calls off of that significant zone of support. If we see price fall below it, just wait for the retest and make sure we stay below it as resistance today. If we see the breakdown, we see the retest, we see it's being respected as resistance, we just take puts. Where to? Our next daily zone of support. All right, so those are going to be your two best of the best of the best of the best game plans for today here on QQQ. All right, so you guys are dialed in on the SPY. You're welcome. You guys are dialed in on the Qs. I got you. All right, you guys have any questions about the SPY or the Qs? If so, ask. You shall receive. If not, let's start looking at some individual stocks. Any other tickers that are on your radar? Let's take a peek at them. Let's see if we have anything looking good for today, or if you guys just have any general questions. I'm happy to answer the questions too. You know what we forgot to do, and I don't know how I forgot to do this. It just came to me. I was running a little bit late firing up that live stream, and I came just a little too hot with a lot of energy this morning. We didn't even dive into our daily devotional. Like, what's going on, Josh? Like, no. God first. God always comes first. So today, I was in Kings, chapter 5, chapter 5. I was in Kings 5:5, 1 Kings 5:5, and it was, your son whom I will put on the throne in your place will build the temple for my name. And I'm sitting there once again, kind of scratching my head like, what does this mean? What are my key takeaways from this? How do I apply this? Like, sometimes I read scripture and I'm like scratching my head, clueless. I'm like, I don't get it. It makes no sense. But yet when I go to my groups and I sit down with my pastor, it's like, boom, he knows exactly. I'm like, come on, I got to get on your level, man. So I'm sitting here scratching my head. I plug it into AI and I start to pick it apart and it starts to make sense. So that's how I was able to process this today. Your son whom I will put on the throne in your place will build the temple for my name. And so this was my key takeaway. God doesn't call everyone to build the same thing, but he does call each of us to serve his purpose in our generation. David fulfilled his purpose by preparing for the temple, while Solomon's purpose was to actually build the temple. The calling was completely different, but the cause was the same. And the cause was honoring and glorifying God. So completely different purpose, but the same cause. And that cause, once again, being glorifying and honoring God. And so the story reminds us that when God gives us a purpose, he also provides us with the wisdom that we need to fulfill that purpose. And then through the verse this morning, we see Solomon was praying, asking for wisdom. And God answered, not just with enough, but with an overflow of wisdom. And that same promise holds true today for you. And this is what John 1:5 reads. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. And that holds true for you today. If you lack wisdom, just go ask God to provide you with wisdom, and he will provide you with that wisdom. And so here are 5 key main areas where God gives wisdom, and this comes right from the scripture this morning, and that's what we see in this story. Is number 1, decision-making. So Solomon's wisdom brought clarity to a complicated situation. He was seeking, again, some wisdom to make the right decisions. And he leaned on God, asking God for wisdom. And we see that God provides him with the wisdom to make those decisions. Choosing a team. We see him building a strong leadership team, just like Jesus did with the 12 disciples. Delegation. Solomon didn't try and do it all alone, right? He delegated to help prevent burnout and to also multiply the impact. Peacemaking. Under his leadership, the nation thrived and experienced peace on every side. And then insight. His understanding was vast, drawing people from all nations to hear his wisdom, right? He was lacking wisdom. He leaned on God, not on his own understanding. And God didn't just provide, he provided an overflow of wisdom. And we see that through the story. And so here's the key takeaway. You don't have to try and figure things out on your own. You don't have to try and figure life out on your own. You don't have to try and figure out career on your own or decision to make. God loves to give us wisdom. God loves us leaning on him and asking him for clarity, for guidance. Do not lean on your own understanding, but put everything in God's hands. God wants you to do that. He wants to bless you with wisdom. He wants to bless you with clarity. He wants to bless you and be the leader in your life. But he wants you to rely on him. He wants you to come to him consistently and wants you to ask persistently. Ask persistently. And we see that so many times in the Bible where, again, someone is asking, but they're asking persistently. As if they're, kind of demanding. They're not demanding, but they're persistent. They're asking, they want it, and God hears, and God blesses. And we see that time and time again. So stop trying to figure things out on your own. Just put these things in God's hands and have him lead, right? So you can serve him, glorify him, and have the clarity that you need to have in order to take those steps down the right path. So ask God where he's calling you right now to serve his cause. Invite him into your decisions. Invite him into your life. Invite him into your business. Invite him into your relationships. Trust that God, the same God who guided Solomon and provided Solomon with wisdom to complete that very challenging task, right? Ask him for wisdom. Ask him for strength. Ask him for vision for the journey ahead. And just lean on him, not your own understanding. And again, ask and you shall receive. God wants to bless you. God wants to multiply those blessings. God wants you to glorify him and move his kingdom forward. He wants you and wants that relationship with you. So amen to that. A freaking men to that. So that was today's devotional. I was in 1 Kings 5:5. So some really good solid takeaways today. You said you're loving the devotionals. I love giving the devotionals, and I'm happy that you guys stuck around as well. That's awesome. It's a blessing that I'm here in this position to share this with you. Again, I'm no pastor. I'm no preacher. I'm not perfect by any means. But again, I want to share the word, and I want to, again, help you men and women, beautiful men and women, find that relationship with God, strengthen your relationship with God, put him front and center in your life like I'm doing in my life, see that transformation that I'm seeing. It's just what fires me up. It's what fires me up, man. I just feel called to do it. You received it. I love it. All right, so let's start doing some Q&A, guys. All right, any other stocks you want to look at, now's the time. Post those stocks on up. We will take a peek-a-rooski at those. If you guys have any general questions around trading, where to get started, whatever the case is, man, ask. You shall receive. I've been trading for 10 years. I've coached over 1,000 traders over the past 5 years. So again, not only do I have my own success with trading, I've helped other people find their success with trading. So like I said, any questions you have, I will answer each and every question, help you guys out, point you guys in the right direction, make sure you guys are crushing it. And I'm just scrolling back up to make sure I didn't miss anything. Your car's extended warranty is, yeah. I am very curious. Is that reliable supply and demand system? It's very reliable. Yeah, zoning, support resistance zoning. These zones are respected 70+% of the time. Supply and demand, same thing. High probability areas that you find are respected 70, 80% of the time. So it's a very reliable methodology. It's a very reliable system. Absolutely. Have I ever lost my account when I first started? I've lost several accounts my first 3 years of trading. I don't know exactly the amount of accounts I've lost. It was probably over 10 self-funded accounts that I've blown up. It equated to like $47,000. So I lost like nearly 50K between probably 10 plus blown up self-funded accounts. Yeah, I didn't lose 50K of combine accounts with top step prop firms. I mean, I self-funded all of my accounts my first 3 years, and I burnt through nearly 50K of cash trying to figure this shit out. That was good stuff. It was fun times. Yeah, it was great. I almost literally bankrupted myself. Seriously. No, it sucked. I went about it the wrong way. That's why I love coaching and teaching, is because I realized what I did my first 3 years was completely avoidable. Right? And I actually could have been profitable within like 3 to 6 months. And I could have absolutely avoided just spinning my wheels for 3 years and just burning cash. And I start to see a lot of other people doing the same thing that I did, right? Taking way too long to learn how to trade and just burning cash. And I'm like, I got to help people. Like, I got to be that person to help them avoid those mistakes, get to profitability a lot faster, just through my own experience of fucking everything up. To be blunt. I just fucked everything up. I went about it the completely wrong way. And I don't think anybody needs to burn that much cash. And I don't think people need to spend 3 years trying to get to profitability. It just doesn't need to take that long. Yes, I have. Yeah, in my third into my fourth year, yes. Mike with Tesla. Yeah, dude, let's go take a look at Tesla, Mike. Let's see what we got here. All right, we're going to clear everything out, go right back to the drawing board, and let's see what we have with Tesla. First thing that stands out to me is the remaining of the unfilled gap, right? So we have this gap here on Tesla's daily. That was the gap from body to body, but you see how price already kind of came back in the day of. We gapped up, but we had that lower shadow almost filling that gap before the push. So we're going to go ahead and just bring this down and really look at it where price has yet to go. This is technically still the unfilled part of the gap. But one thing that really, really starts to stand out to me with Tesla is the fact that not only do we have this gap level, the bottom of the gap right around like 308.70, that's right where the 200 SMA is. So number one, if we come down and fill the gap, we already know there's a high probability chance we get a gap fill bounce type of setup there. Right? But now you have that 200 SMA sitting right there as another level of key support. So that's starting to look really good on Tesla. If we come down and fill that gap, we would also be hitting 200 SMA support. We could absolutely see a nice little pop and a nice little bounce down around that 308.70 level. So there's the gap on Tesla. What else do we have here? We got the gap. Going to the upside, identifying key areas of resistance. The next area of resistance isn't until you get back up against some of these previous highs. Let's get that top zone dialed in. Yep. You got a zone of resistance up here between 331.79 to 333.19. That's just up against those prior lows, prior support. We see it flip into daily resistance. So that's going to be the next zone to the upside is 331.79 to 333.19. But we do have this gap right here on Tesla as well. That was the gap down from Monday into Tuesday's session. So we do have this unfilled gap to the upside. We still have part of this unfilled gap to the downside. We got that daily zone of resistance overhead. Now, the next thing that I'm asking myself is, okay, I got the gap up here and I got the gap down here, right? There's still about, what, $16 in between these two levels. So the gap down here is at 310. The gap up here is at 326. That's a $16 window in between those two areas. So the next thing I ask myself is there another key zone in between the two gaps? Is there? If so, great. Let's identify it. If not, Tesla's basically saying you got to be fucking patient. You got to be really freaking patient. I don't see any other dialed in key zone. I really don't. I mean, there's another light zone. It's not significant, but it's a reference, right? You got that low a day from May 13th. You got that low a day bounce from June 12th, and you got yesterday's close. So you got a zone with 1, 2, 3 touch points. But the only thing that really stands out to me is we saw that big sharp move off that zone. So it's like, okay, cool. We got a sharp, significant move off that zone, but it only has 3 hits. So we know it's a lower probability zone, but hey, let's still just see what happens off the zone, if anything. So where's Tesla at right now? That zone's actually being respected, man. Check it. We gap up this morning in pre-market, come down, hit that zone, we bounce. Wow, who would have thought the zone was going to be respected? Oh my gosh. But it is. That should be the lits, in my opinion. Since we already see it hit respected here in pre-market, that's going to be the LITS, line in the sand for today. If we hold that zone with A+ price action, we know Tesla can push up into that top gap that we identified. Because there's nothing from that zone into the gap. We have so much just clear upside potential into the gap before we have to worry about any kind of reversal, right? So that's going to be the long if we hold that lits with like really good price action. Play Tesla long up to like 326 and 329 into that gap. But if we see Tesla go below that line in the sand zone, wait for the retest. If we retest that zone as intraday resistance with, again, some A+ price action, play the puts. Where to? Into the lower daily gap, down around 308.70 to 310.60. And then if we ever see Tesla come down and fill the gap, we know the 200 SMA is sitting right there as well. So if we ever come down to 308.70, you best believe I'm playing calls on Tesla for a gap fill bounce off that 200 SMA as well. All right. That's Tesla, good sir. I think there is some decent potential for today. Because not only do we have that lower significant line in the sand zone, it's also ran up against yesterday's close. So that's naturally just going to be an area of support resistance for today's session as well. So we can see not only do we want that daily zone to hold, we want to see it stay above yesterday's close as well, right at that 316.30 mark. As long as we hold 316.30 with good price action, there's a great chance we see Tesla pop and push to the upside today. But if we get below that zone, we get below 316.32, if we retest it and stay below it, then at that time, we're looking to play puts on Tesla. Look who's back in the house. Tristan, what's up, dude? It's been a hot minute, Tristan. Welcome back, man. The Sizz, talking about AMD. Let's go look at AMD real quick. We've done a fuck ton of analysis on AMD. We got all of that lower demand sitting down there. AMD gap up from last night, came down, hit the top of the gap twice in pre-markets. Yeah, we are gapping up a little bit today. Did we fill the gap yesterday? We got pretty close off yesterday's gap up. No, we did. No, we actually did come down and hit the gap. We came down and hit it in after hours last night. So the gap from Monday into Tuesday was filled last night in post-market. Price has popped to the upside. So gap's been filled in after hours. We've seen the pop on up. That's a pretty significant point based on the formation, based on that really big, strong day on Monday with an increase in volume, followed by the gap up yesterday, kind of put in this little, reversal candle. You just got that large upper shadow. We closed red near low of day. Again, another slight increase in volume. The way I see this, just from experience, is Monday's close, that gap level, is going to be a pretty significant make or break level on AMD. If we can just stay above and hold above that single level of 126.41, we could still see more upside on AMD. But if we ever see, like on a 5-minute time frame, AMD getting back below that 126.40 level and failing to get back above it, and we actually see it's forming resistance off 126.41, I think we start to get a bit of that reversal to the downside, especially after seeing how that daily candle formed yesterday. So Not the typical analysis that I do, just running single levels, but in this scenario, this example, we're really just looking at Monday's close being that make or break threshold on AMD. We hold it, we play calls. We get below it, stay below it. We're thinking about some puts for a bit of a reversal. So if it sets up to go long, where could we see it go back up to? We're just doing some really short-term analysis to start here on AMD. And I'd be looking back up at Monday's high a day and yesterday's open, around 128 being a target here on AMD. First target. Then if we just look left, you're really just going to go target yesterday's high a day. If we fall below that 126.41, how much more room to the downside could we see on AMD? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to take a fib retracement off that swing low to that swing high, right? Because that is a nice, beautiful leg to the upside, right? Nice retracement, nice big push, nice upward leg. Take that fib retracement from the swing low to the swing high. And then we're looking left to see where our next daily zone is going to be. And this starts to stand out to me. That gap down, low a day, big bounce. So that stands out to me. I already see we have a couple hits there. We got a couple hits there. I already see that this is going to be an area where I will find a zone based on the types of moves I've seen around this price point. So let's go ahead and put that zone on up here. And so that zone is going to be just right. We can tighten that up a little bit. Can we pull the top down? We don't want to pull the top down. All right, but that's going to be a very nice daily zone here on AMD. Got a lot of hits back here, a lot of hits back here. Gap down, open low a day. Big freaking rip to the upside. Gap up, high a day rejection, May 14th. And you got a few other little hits here last week as well off that zone. So you got a really nice daily zone down here between 121.82 to 122.54. So that would be the zone that we would look to take the puts into, right? So we got that daily zone of support. We've already talked about what we got going on up here. And we took that fib retracement from the swing low to the swing high. And so what are you starting to notice with AMD? Well, we have that daily zone of support down around 121.82 to 122.54. Take note of where that daily zone lines up in correlation with that fib retracement. It's right inside the golden pocket. So that's a very strong leg to the upside. If we're going to see a natural, healthy retracement, where do we typically get those retracements to? Right into that 50% threshold. Well, that fib 50% threshold lines up with my key daily zone of support where I naturally expect there to be more buyers than sellers. So I think that's going to be a great area to get short into if the short sets up. But I also think if we hold that level, this is going to be the next best place to get long for a swing trade here on AMD. Because not only would this be a retracement back into old resistance to retest it as new support, it would be a nice retracement right into that 50% fib, which is a super solid confluence. So AMD is looking good for a possible day trade, but it also could be setting up for like a really nice swing trade on AMD. So we've done our daily analysis. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and drill this bad boy down into a lower time frame and get an idea of what we need to see. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark this zone up as our LITs. It is our LLITS. We're going to add one extra L to the beginning, an LLITS. It's a light line in the sand. It's a lighter line in the sand, but it's still an area that I want to keep on watch today and see if we have good price action off that zone between 127.95 to 128.13. And the reason I like it already is because we gapped up this morning, hit that zone, and put in that pre-market low off the zone to the freaking penny. So I'm already liking that daily zone because I see it's already being respected in pre-market session. So here's your first game plan. We come down to that zone and we hold it with A plus price action. I would expect to see AMD push back up to yesterday's high a day at 130.69. If we fall below that zone and retest it with, again, A plus price action where there's clearly more sellers than buyers, and we see that, we're going to play puts. Where to? Back down to that 126.41. And then if we ever fall below 126.41, that's when I think we have a clear shot right down the 122 on AMD. So AMD looks great to the long side if it holds that zone of support. And it looks good to the short side if we fall below it and stay below it as resistance. So I could care less if AMD wants to set up long, if AMD wants to set up short. I don't care. I just want to be on the right side of the trade. So if it sets up long, let's play calls. If it gets below the zone, stays below the zone, let's take puts. And we'll be all set, ready to rock and roll, guys. AMD looks pretty good. I like it. Sizzy. Start calling you the Sizzy. The Sizz Master. Yeah, so Tesla looks good. AMD looks pretty good as well, guys. What else do we got? We got like 10 more minutes to keep jamming. Yes, Alexandra. Sorry. Yeah, we already ran through the SPY and the Qs. Yes, we did. Hey, I'm new, and I'm wondering how to start. I've already done a fair bit of learning and research. So you're new, wondering how to get started. Where the first thing that I would recommend is get an idea of like what time of the day would you even have to come in and commit to trading with no distractions. So what's that time of day? Is it 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern? Or do you only have time at like 8 p.m. at night to come into the market? So first, identify when can I actually sit down in the market with no distractions for like an hour or 2 hours? What time of the day is that? Then choose what I'm going to be trading. Because if you told me, it's like, Josh, I can only trade from like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's my time. Well, you're not going to want to learn how to trade options because options aren't tradable during that time. I would recommend learning how to trade futures if that's the case. So get clear on the time that you have to commit. Pick the market you want to choose, right? And then secondly, open up a paper account for at least 2 weeks and trade that paper account consistently as if it was a real account. And then just track your results. If your results are looking really good and you're making some good fake money, just do what you were doing with real cash and don't change a thing. But if you get 2 weeks in on a paper account and you see that you're actually losing money, why would you want to do that with real cash? You would want to refine your approach, improve your approach, right? Make sure the numbers look better. Once you get to the point of consistent profitability with some fake cash, take exactly what you've been doing into a real account, but don't go real account until you've had at least 2 weeks in a paper account. Just to kind of get an idea of would I even be profitable in the first place? Do I prefer EMAs or SMAs? It depends on the time frame. It depends on the time frame. So EMAs on lower time frames, SMAs on larger time frames. Do I look at scanners? No, I don't. Not anymore. I used to have scanners I paid like $2,400 a year for trading penny stocks. I don't trade penny stocks anymore, so no. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. What do I have to begin my first trade? You need to have a charting platform. You need to have a broker, and you need to have access to a paper account to be able to come in, learn the platform, learn the market, click the buttons, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. But all you need to have is a charting platform, a broker set up, and then a paper account as well. That's all you need to come in and start learning how to trade and get in some screen time. How do I buy options? Through your broker. The options chart looks crazy and you're trying to self-teach. Yeah, it's tough to self-teach yourself. It's really hard with no structure, no idea of what do I need to learn today and why. It's just tough. I self-taught myself for 3 years, and it was bad. It's just hard. It's doable. It's just very fucking hard. But again, how do you buy options? You just need a broker. Number one, to be able to buy and sell options. And then number two, you need to have options approval to be able to trade options in the first place. And then you're going to be looking at an options chain, like the options grid, the columns. It's called an options chain. you're going to see the options chain within your broker, and that's how you're going to pick and choose and buy and sell your options, or through the options chain that's built into your brokerage account. All right, I need to warm up my coffee. So if you guys have another question, let me know. I'm going to warm this bad boy up, come back, and we'll keep jamming. We'll keep freaking jamming, baby. 1,000 likes. Really? Do I have to ask still for likes? This should just be, if I'm here, I'm liking the stream. Do I trade 0 days till X, 0 TDR? You mean 0 DTE? No, I don't trade. If you're talking expirations, I don't trade 0 DTEs. I trade 1 day out minimum. Yeah. All right, what else we got? Can I explain how to use a trend-based fib extension? I absolutely can, but I can't do it in 5 minutes. I mean, I literally have a 1 hour long training specifically around fibs, right? It's something that I just cannot explain in 5 to 10 minutes thoroughly and accurately. There's a lot that goes into it. Like I said, I have an hour-long course training just on fibs. But yes, to answer your question, I can explain it in 5 to 10 minutes. No way in hell I'm going to be able to do that. And it actually makes sense. You'll be like, okay, I'm more confused than how we started. Cool. But next time I'm on a session, Trina, and if we have a little bit more time than like 5-10 minutes, I'll explain fibs. Yeah, I'm going to need to carve out like 30 minutes to an hour on a session and, making it exclusive, education session around fibs. You got yourself a subscriber? Hey, appreciate you, man. Means a lot. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate the support and the kind words. Trina, yeah, next time we're on a session, maybe not in the morning, but like in the afternoon, and you're here, yeah, I'll carve out some time and we'll discuss fibs. All right, guys, stay blessed. Enjoy your day. Trade smart, trade safe on TikTok. I'll see you back here Friday for Friday's session. If you're on YouTube, which I always forget that we have viewers on YouTube, so I never look at the live chat, which, hey, it's fine. We didn't have anybody in the live chat today, so we're good. So I'm going to drop the stream. I'm going to load up the Zoom sesh. I will see you guys there. Let's get ready to